Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth, and one of the things that we talk about is Black economic empowerment. And part of that role of discussing Black economic empowerment means that, every now and then we have to draw attention to something that, when we think that people need to hear another perspective. So, before I jump into the topic for today, I want to let you know that I'm talking to my homegirl and my partner in crime, Miss Yvette Carnell. How you doing today, Yvette?
Doing good. How about you?
I'm doing really well, really well. And today I saw an article about Mr. Steve Harvey, and he's doing these advertisements for this company called Strayer University, Strayer. And I did some research on Strayer, and it turns out Strayer is a for-profit university, and for-profit universities don't have the best reputation because a lot of people believe that these schools are specifically targeted to people of color, particularly poor people of color in urban communities who are looking for a better life. And a lot of students walk away from these situations feeling exploited. Basically, it's almost like an educational version of the porn industry. They use them up, spit them out, and the people end up with a lifetime of regrets. And in this case, tons of student loans, defaults, joblessness. The things that they're trying to get away from are the things that end up meeting them when they finish their degree in a lot of cases. First of all, I want to ask you: did you see the commercial for Strayer that Steve Harvey was doing?
Yeah, I saw. I've seen a couple of those commercials that he's doing.
So, what did you think about that?
Well, here's my thing. Here's in my mind, I compare it, right? I compare the all of the bad publicity that HBCUs are getting right now for the number of students in HBCUs who are defaulting, and you know that the majority, a disproportionate number of HBCU students are poor, and so you look at that, but you look at the fact that I read that half of kids who go to these for-profit colleges, they end up defaulting on their loans. The majority of them don't get degrees, so and it's upwards of, I think, 95 or 96% of kids who go to these schools, who go to these for-profit colleges, end up taking out student loans. So when you talk about default, that's a lot of default. And it seems to me that they're not being held accountable for what they're bringing as a product. But you look at HBCUs, and we're dogged all the time for our levels of for our default rate. And Obama basically told a bunch of people, a bunch of members of the Congressional Black Caucus, HBCUs basically have to get their stuff together. Well, what about these? What about these groups? And why is Steve Harvey like pushing this for Strayer? I don't know a lot about Strayer, but why are you pushing a for-profit college when most of these kids would do just as well, if not better, at a state school or a community college? So I'm just wondering about all the double standards.
Well, to give you some context on some of this, people should look at some data. There's an article at Time Magazine where they cite a study done by three Harvard professors that kind of break down not just what for-profit schools as a collective kind of bring to society, but who they are exploiting the most.
Hmm.
And according to this article, and I'm going to read from this, it says today, for-profit students account for 47% of all loan defaults. Also, one in four for-profit students will default on their loans within 3 years, as opposed to 8.7% of students at nonprofit four-year institutions. Also, they say that they charge more in tuition than students at comparable nonprofit institutions. On average, $13,000 to $16,000 per year, nearly double the $8,000 per year charged by the average public in-state four-year undergraduate institution. And now they cite a number 13 to 16,000 a year. Strayer University, the university that Steve Harvey's advertising for, they charge about 14,000 a year. So their tuition's actually dropped a little bit, but they're still in that 13 to 16 range. And so it's interesting. They also say that after 6 years after they enter college, for-profit students are more likely to be unemployed, and to be unemployed for periods longer than 3 months. Further, if they are able to find a job, students who attend for-profits make on average between $1,800 and $2,000 less per year than their peers who attended other institutions. Now, do you think that this data is kind of an unfair, biased view of these schools? I mean, can we be accused of kind of lumping Strayer in with a bad pool of public, or excuse me, for-profit universities, or do you think that this is just kind of a consistent pattern here, and that Harvey might be contributing to some of this?
No, I think it's a consistent pattern. I'm not saying that Strayer is the worst, or that they don't have people who graduated and who can get jobs. But the truth be told, you look at these for-profit colleges, and a lot of what they spend their money on is marketing. So what you have is students who don't know that there are other choices available, because what you see when you go watch TV, especially when you go watch TV in the daytime, which is when a lot of these kids are, have free time, is all about these for-profit institutions. When the truth is, you could do better. You could get a better bang for your buck at another school. But we don't know this. And so when you look at somebody like Steve Harvey, a lot of kids have grown up, watching him on his TV show, watching his comedy. This guy's a trusted guy. You wonder, like, why are you putting your name on a for-profit college when you could do a better job for these kids? If you're a kid in a state, you could go to a state school. There are a number of community colleges which are so much cheaper than these for-profit colleges, and they're just, some of them have, I remember there was a story a while back on Democracy Now! Where some students had actually sued some of these for-profit colleges for giving them basically worthless degrees. They were like, diploma mills. Now, I'm not saying that's the case with Strayer, but the truth is, you do better, or you have a better chance of using your money economically and having some money left over, as opposed to, and getting a degree at the end of the day that actually does something for you, as opposed to going to this school that may not even be open a few years now. You've had a few of these for-profit colleges close. What do you do with your degree? What is your degree worth if that college isn't even around anymore? So I just think it's just problematic for me for having a big name star, a big name black celebrity, kind of putting his brand on a for-profit college.
Mm. Well, um, I don't think it's coincidental that a man like a Steve Harvey would be selected by Strayer to do these commercials, because the people more likely to attend the for-profit schools are people, black people from the hood, basically, people maybe who are first-generation college students looking for a better opportunity to improve their lives. And the ad is really inspirational. It's kind of like, one of those rags to riches, I pushed hard. This is how I got to the top. Kind of a almost like an academic version of a hoop dream. To kind of that's being kind of fed to people
Hmm.
in tough situations to kind of say, Strayer can get you there, right? And what's unfortunate is that I looked up Strayer specifically, and I wanted to see what former students are saying about the school, and I went to a site, it's consumeraffairs.com, and the school, from what I understand on this website, has a rating of a little less than 2 out of 5 stars. So about 1.8 out of 5 stars. And a lot of the remarks were complaints, or about 200 views. And there were students who seemed to feel, many of whom felt that they were kind of hyped up, with ads like this to say, oh yeah, this is the way to create your future. But then they found out that once they got there, that they weren't treated the way they thought they'd be treated. They didn't get the opportunities they thought they'd get. Things like that. So I would definitely agree with you that, look, if you're gonna go to school, uh, I would say that staying away from for-profit institutions is a pretty good strategy. I haven't seen too many examples of people attending these schools who are doing that much better in their lives. And so again, without specifically picking on Strayer, I will say that in this system, this education game, there is an effort to exploit those who are the least informed. And that's why I took the time. I wanted to make sure you and I talked about this, so that people who are thinking about going to these schools would at least know that there are other alternatives out there, that there are a lot of concerns. I know that the federal government has been clamping down big time on these institutions. I'll read a little bit from this Time Magazine article. They said that now, under new rules from the federal government, in order to get access to federal financial aid, because that's the hustle. They get you to sign
Yeah.
up for all these loans and grants, and so because these schools charge higher tuition and they target poor people and minorities, they get a bigger percentage of Pell Grant money, as well as student loan disbursements. So in fact, for the 2008-2009 school year, Despite the fact that these schools enrolled 12% of all higher education students, they received 26% of student loan disbursements, 24% of Pell Grant disbursements. So the new rules basically say three things. One, at least 35% of the school's former students should be out of default in their loans. Two, the estimated annual loan payment cannot exceed 30% of the student's discretionary income. Three, the estimated annual loan payment does not exceed 12% of the student's total earnings. Okay, discretionary income versus total earnings. Got you. Okay, so colleges that fail all three metrics three times within 4 years will have their federal financial aid dollars cut. So maybe that is part of the reason Strayer cut their tuition costs. I don't know, or maybe it was just due to the market, but it does seem that because the government's making this loan money so readily available, what it's been doing is actually inflating the cost of education. It's almost like an inflationary expansionary policy by the federal government. Like if they started just printing money left and right, well, the prices of all the goods would go up. Well, in education, they've been printing money, and they're letting people take on all these massive loans. And now the next big economic crisis is actually, in my opinion, gonna be related to student loan defaults, because a lot of students are just taking all this money to go to school to these expensive universities, and they can't pay it back. And I think that that's going to end up significantly harming the economy, maybe even crumbling the infrastructure of our economy, because it's getting out of control. I'll let you get the last word, Yvette. What you think?
No, I agree with you. I do think it's getting out of control, and I do think, I do think part of what we have to do is let people know that, listen, the you don't know about these other institutions because they're not using the majority of their money for marketing dollars. Your community college isn't marketing to you. They just, they're going to spend their money on your education. You really don't want to go to a school, in my opinion, that spends this much money on marketing to you, because to them, you are a consumer and not a student, and that's how they see you. And so I would before I even looked at a university like Strayer or any other for-profit university, I would look at my state schools. I would look at my community colleges, because you can transfer from community colleges to a state college, and save yourself a lot of money for the first 2 years if you want to, or if you just wanted to get, and if you just want to get your associates or whatever, a certificate, you could do that too. But I think, we have to alert people that, listen, the reason you know more about these colleges, the reason you hear more about them is because they're spending huge amounts of money marketing to you the same way that Coke, Pepsi, and Nike does. And that lets you know they're trying to sell you a product. They're not trying to spend the majority of their money educating you. So just be aware of that, be wary of that, and just think twice before you invest in a for-profit institution.
Right. I think that's good advice. And, and there's nothing wrong with selling education to people as long as it's fairly priced and you're giving people what they're looking for. And I think that's the concern. As you mentioned, they're not putting as much energy into taking care of those students that they sucked in. They're spending their energy sucking them in. And a lot of black people are. What do you say?
I say sucking them in and sucking them dry.
There you go, sucking them in, sucking them dry, and then spitting them out. There you go. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So that's all I want to say. That's all I want to talk about today. Thank you very much, Yvette. I appreciate your time.
Not a problem.
All right, and thank you all for checking this out. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth, and this is Miss Yvette Carnell at breakingbrown.com, which is a hugely popular website. Hundreds of thousands of readers every month. How many visitors did you have in your site last month, Yvette?
Oh, we had well over 500,000. We had like 600,000 last month. So
Lord have mercy. Y'all blowing up. People love it. It's important because people. I love it because it's like you've got hundreds of thousands of people, mostly black, who are just craving, something different, something thoughtful, so, something insightful. And that's what you give people. I always joke and say you're too smart for MSNBC. You don't scratch the surface. You go places nobody else will go. You go deeper than other people will go. And I think that's why people love Breaking Brown. That's why I love it. So congratulations on your success. And
thank everybody for coming to Breaking Brown. We appreciate you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, anyway, thank you all for checking us out, and we are going to take off. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.